All right, so jumping back into the demo here, we can see that we have activated our joins and relates data frame, and we have a very simple data set in here called Maryland counties. If I were to right click on that and open up the properties, I could see that if I click on the source tab, that is associated with a shapefile called mdcounties.shape. So I've just visually changed it to say something that makes a little more sense, Maryland counties. So as I mentioned in the last demo, we can click on any one of these polygons and see that only the FIPS code, which we now are familiar with from the lecture, identifying that individual county within Maryland. I just happened to click on Frederick County there, so that's 24021. Baltimore County has a FIPS code of 24005. That is the only information contained within the shapefile. So that really limits, let's say, the usability, if you will, of this shapefile. But if I wanted to add information to this shapefile, I could very easily do that through a series of joins and relates. So in this case, I'm going to do the relate first. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch over here to list by source, and you can see that I have a couple of other tables that I can do or I can do some analysis with, or associate with this shapefile in some way, shape, or form. So now if we think about it, we're going to demonstrate a relate here. Within a particular county, let's say Garrett County, we have one Garrett County. We have one polygon associated with that county. Whereas if we open up the table for MD fire stations, we can see that we have a FIPS code, which is going to be our unique identifier, and we have multiple fire stations within each one of those counties. So in this case, I've just highlighted all the records for the fire stations within Allegheny County, and Allegheny County happens to be 24001. So if I close out that table, and again, if I iTool instead of Garrett County, I'm going to iTool or identify Allegheny County, 24001. So there's my link. So there is my first sort of lesson in cardinality. I have one polygon that represents Allegheny County, but I have multiple or many fire stations that reside within the county. So I cannot force all of these records into that one polygon that is Allegheny County. So I'm going to have to create an association that is sort of a temporary linkage between this table and this shapefile. So how do I do that? Well, here's the rule of thumb, guys. I always tell myself when I'm going to join something or I'm going to relate something, whatever I'm joining to or what I'm relating to is what I right click on. So in this case, I'm going to right click on Maryland counties, and there's my joins and relates functionality. So I'm going to go to relate, and it's going to open up an interface here. And again, want to read this like a narrative, sort of work your way down slowly but surely, and I'm going to go ahead and work through it here in the demo. So I want to choose the field in this layer, that's the Maryland counties layer, that the relate will be based on. Well, I have this unique code that identifies each county with FIPS. I want to relate the Maryland fire station table to this layer. And so ArcMap a lot of times is smart enough to realize, well, I might as well use the FIPS code and not the feature name field, because those are where we're going to get a match. You can name the relate anything you want. In this case, I'm just going to leave it as relate 1, because when I see the relate 1 later, it's actually going to add the table name of MD fire stations in there. So I'm going to say OK. And essentially the magic has occurred. It doesn't really show us anything, but what we can do is we can click on any polygon, and now as we expand in this top part of the window, 24005 again is the FIPS code for Baltimore County. When I expand that, though, I can see that now there is a related table with it, and when I hit that plus sign, I can see all the names of all the different fire stations that are associated with Baltimore County only. There's a limited amount of usability here, of course. You're not actually showing the individual fire stations, but you're at least showing which ones are associated with that particular county. Another way to look at that is to open up the attribute table. And again, if I select Baltimore County, which I know is 24005, I can actually come up here to the table options button, and I can look at the related tables. And there's my relate 1, and relate 1 is a relationship between this table in this shapefile and this table here, MD fire stations. And so it opens up a second tab over here, and there's all my 24005, which happens to be all my Baltimore County related fire stations. I can come back over to Maryland counties, and I can see I'll select 24001 Allegheny County, And then I'm going to have to tell it again, because if I just switch back over to this table, it still has Baltimore over here. So I got to come back and I'm going to select a new one, and I'm going to say show me the related tables. And so when I do that, it grabs all the Allegheny County fire stations. So that's a good way to sort of demonstrate, if you will, how a relate works, and again, only within a one-to-many or many-many relationship. But I do have some information that I could join to this county's layer to make it useful and make it permanent to it as well, so that I have it locked within my shapefile. So if I open up this table and I take a look at it, I can see that I have a field called county code, and that happens to be a FIPS code as well. The field names do not have to match to be able to find a unique identifier, as long as you know that your code is consistent within your data. So again, we're looking at the different FIPS codes, but we have some other information in this flat file table that would be really nice to have as part of our polygons. The name of the county, and then the county seat. So that's the seat of government within each of those different counties. So right now we can see the only thing we have in the shapefile is county code, and I can again verify that by using my interactive query on any of those counties, and that's the only thing I have in there. So again, what's my rule of thumb? I'm going to right click on what I want to join to, joins and relates, and I'm going to do a join. I'm going to join from a table. If I wanted to do a spatial join as we described in the lecture, I would click on this join data from another layer based on spatial location, and the entire interface would change and you would adjust accordingly. In this case, I'm trying to join two tables. So what's the field in this layer that the join's going to be based on? Well, I don't have many choices. I'm going to use the FIPS code. And in this case, I don't want to join the MD fire stations. I want to join the county names and seats table. And in this case, I don't have a FIPS code in the county names and seats table. Remember, it was under the FIPS codes were contained within this county code field. And I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And again, the magic has happened. And so we just go ahead and take a look. We can actually iTool query on that, and now it's added additional information to that. You can see the FIPS code 24005. It actually duplicates it in the county code field 24005. But now we know we can click on any of these polygons and we can see that this is Howard County and its county seat is Ellicott City. PG County, Upper Marlboro is the county seat there. So we've added some useful information to this data. Now, let's not forget about Maryland Demographics New, because remember, we had this table that we used as part of our attribute query demo, where we had a bunch of information about each of the Maryland counties, and so now we could actually make our Maryland County shapefile much richer with all of this wonderful demographic information that we could use to make choropleth maps or to do some sort of an analysis. And again, remember, we didn't have the name of the county in here, but luckily our previous join already took care of that using the county names and seats table that I had set up earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and you'll notice that it's up here in the table attribute query and export, and that's going to be key when I come down here and again right click and do that join. And now I'm going to tell it I want to join based on FIPS code. I could also use county code because that's now part of that shapefile, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it consistent and do FIPS, and you'll notice MD Fire Stations is the only one that's available there because I currently have county names and seats as part of the join, but I don't have Maryland Demographics New. And that's simply because Maryland Demographics New is contained within this data frame up here rather than being in here. So what I really need to do is just browse to it, and then I'm going to go into my queries demos folder, and there's my Maryland Demographics New DBF. And I'm going to tell it that I want to use the FIPS code within that table, not the state FIPS code, because that's just the 2-digit 24 code for Maryland, and then the county FIPS is only the 3-digit code. So I want to use the full 5-digit code to join information. So when I do that, it asks me if I want to index the field in the table. We want to say yes, we want that to be consistent so that it queries it much faster. So now when I click on this, I see Baltimore County. I know the name, I know the county seat, and I know what all of the population figures are back in 2000, 2005. So I have much more data that I can now work with. Now, the last thing that I want to point out in this demonstration is extremely important. These two joins that I have just done are only within the Joins Queries Web MXD. It's temporary in memory within this MXD. So if we want to make that data permanently attached, if you will, to the Maryland County shapefile, we want to go ahead and export that. So we would right click and go to Data, data export, and I'm going to navigate to where my data is currently located. You'll notice that I've got a Maryland County shapefile. That's the original. Here's a Maryland County's join. That's a join that I had done earlier. So I'm just going to call this one Maryland County Joins 2, and I'll say save. I'll say OK. And again, it's going to save a new shapefile, and it's going to go ahead and add that into the interface. So there's my purple Maryland counties. It's just a copy of this original one, but now I can iTool on this and I can see that that is permanently attached information. I can now take this shapefile and add it to another project, a blank ArcMap MXD, and start working with that data. Whereas here, Maryland counties, yes, I still do have it attached, but remember, that's only part of a join and a relate. So I could just very easily come over here and remove all my joins, and I could very easily come over here and remove all of my relates. And now if I query on that, I'm back to square one. 24021 for Frederick County, 24005 for Baltimore County. The difference is now that this county's join, Maryland County's join 2 file, actually has it permanently attached. So you can look at it this way as part of the table, or you can actually click on it and see through the interactive queries that we have that information joined in permanently. So that is the end of the joins and relates demo. Just illustrating how we do tabular joins. Again, spatial joins we just talked about within the lecture, but you'll have an opportunity to do that within the exercises, and you'll have an opportunity to do that within the context of our first project as we work towards that in the next couple of weeks. So the next thing to do would be move on to adding fields and the field calculator lecture, and then returning here to work on this demo, which we would then return to our example of land use land cover within Baltimore County.